Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So it's a cold, frosty morning, and what I'm going to be growing in today's video, you might not even be considering that's possible right now. But I'm going to be talking about those chili plants and those aubergine plants that I showed you how to overwinter in these overwintering videos that I did last year. I'm going to show you how to bring them back into life. But the first thing, before we get into that, we're going to need one of our key ingredients. So I've shown you on these videos before that I've got different grades of compost for the things that I'm going to be using. And I've got my really rough stuff over there that's perfect for potting up large plants. And I've got some slightly more refined stuff over here. Let's take this stuff. This is pre-mixed with a bit of vermiculite, but it's a medium grade of compost. It's not the stuff that I'd use for seed sowing, so it hasn't got a lot of sharp sand in there. But we're going to need this. Let's get inside and we're going to get cracking and get somewhere warm as well. So dotted around the house, I've got my chili plants. Some of the ones that I've been overwintering from last year. And here's a couple sat on my windowsill. We've got another guy sat in that plant pot there. So let's get him out as well.
Who's that?
And over here, I've got a couple of aubergine plants and another chili plant. So these guys have just been hanging about throughout the house all winter. And it's time to get these guys into action for this year.
Where are the chilies?
So where are the chilies? Look, there's a little one there.
Oh.
So here, this one's a Danu Morris. This one's a Danu Morris, and these two are Naga. Now,
Is that a spider web?
no, that's fungus.
Oh.
So one of the things that you might notice, as my son just pointed out, is you might notice some mold growing on the surface of your soil. And that's because it's been humid in the house. These plants haven't had a lot of exposure to any sort of natural environments, and they've started to get a little bit moldy because of the stuff that's inside the compost. Other things that, before we start any work on these chili plants, that you've got to keep an eye out for is, though you've just spotted it there, aphids that are overwintering. Those little dandruff-like white marks, they're one of the telltale signs. And if you want to eat something even more telltale, look up here. There's actual aphids on that new growth.
I see.
Yeah. So just
those like brown speck things?
those brown speck things. Yeah, these are a new aphid that we've noticed a lot more this over the last couple of years. A lot more red aphids. We typically get the green aphids, but the red aphids have become a lot more common here. And they seem a lot more resilient as well. So I don't know. We'll find some find some more detailed information about them. And you asked for a chili, and you've just brought one in. So there's a pepper that we've overwintered, and that's growing. You've got loads of aphids and overwintering aphids and little mites. You can see little cocoons there. So we're going to have to give this plant a proper clean before we get into anything else. And the easiest way to clean these plants, when you've got them in the house like this, is the easiest way of sorting these plants out or getting some of these pests under control is get them under your tap. And we're going to give it a little clean up as well. So some of these older leaves that have served their purpose, some of them are crusting over and dying anyway, we're going to get rid of. And in that we'll get rid of a load of aphids as well.
Can I cut one off?
Yeah. So take that one off. Go on. Do these ones as well. Do that one. Yes, and you notice that new growth just there. You want to be careful and protect that. At this time of year, you'll notice, because the weather's warming up, or not that you can tell with the frost outside, we've got heating on in the house. We've got light levels starting to increase. The days are already getting a little bit longer. You can notice already between the winter solstice and now the days are already about 15 minutes longer on either end. By the end of the month, they'll be an hour longer on either end. The plants are going to start doing better. So we need to be prepped now really for these plants to come into action. On these cut off stalks, this plant hasn't got much place for me to trim, so I'm not going to do anything with that. So I'm going to notice more new growth coming out of where these leaf intersections were, like there. I'll expect more leaves coming out of there. You can just about see the buds starting to pop from where these leaf intersections are. This is a prime time for the aphids to attack and completely decimate the plant and completely take out all its strength. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some soft soap or ordinary dish soap and just wash every leaf. I'll take that leaf off, but I'm going to wash the stems, and I'm going to wash every single leaf. Make sure you wash the undersides properly because a lot of aphids can hide under there. And I prefer doing this by hand rather than using just a spray bottle. The hands are the best tools that you're going to have. You can feel for any little bumps on the leaves and catch them. It is a little bit time consuming, but it's worth putting that effort in because we've gone through all that effort to get this plant to this stage. See, look, even after that scrub, there's still aphids hiding underneath. And what you'll notice is after you finish this, more aphids will start crawling out as they start drying off and they feel the effects of the soap. You'll see more aphids crawling out and they'll start. It's another good time to give it another clean then. Use lukewarm water, water that's not too hot but not too cold either, and give the I don't know, and give the whole thing a good rinse. No, that looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you might notice is some of the green growth that's coming out is a lot lighter than the old growth, and that green growth, that's fresh green growth that's so light, is because of the light levels. If I had space under my grow lights, they'd be going under there. But I'm just going to repeat that process with all my plants. Come on, help me take these through. Let's go.
Should I take the grey one?
Yeah, bring whatever you can manage. So it's the same process with these aubergines. Now these aubergines are coming back to life as well. There's a little bit of aphids on there, so we'll give it a good old rinse. You can see the real green coming out on these aubergine plants as I'm washing them. That's one of the things that I love. All that fuzz is getting washed out. Now the soap will dry them out. It doesn't matter if you're using washing up liquid. Most washing up liquids are detergents or household washing up liquids, so it doesn't matter whether you're using that or actual real soap. It'll do the job for aphids. Obviously, soft soap's better than detergent for the environment. Let's get on to the next stage of these plants. So what size plot should we pot these up into? A lot of people will move from this into its actual final pot, into a large, probably 5 litre pot, and they'll be done. For me, I don't do that. And the reason is the plants are still adapting, they're still waking up, right? The light levels are still relatively low, as you can see by this light green growth. They're not getting enough light, they're not getting the light that they need, but they want to grow. You're gonna need to manage that level of growth. You don't want to put it into its final position so it can grow into a huge plant straight away, because it's going to get loads of feed, it's going to get loads of place to expand its roots and put on nice lush growth. But because it's not going to get the light, it's not going to put on strong growth. So what I'd do is I'd step and I'd stagger that growth. I'd stagger the potting up. So what I'd do with this small plant, is I wouldn't move that into a pot much bigger than that one. So we're going to do a bit of pot juggling here. You can see that pot is ever so slightly bigger than the aubergine plot. Realistically, this aubergine pot doesn't need potting up yet. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So it doesn't need to be a massive change, but a little bit of compost into the bottom. This mulch level at the top, this is coming off, because that's quite rough and quite loose. It'll all fall apart as soon as we start turning the plant upside down. And there we go. Let's get this guy out. Bismillah. little squeeze on the side of the pot and just be gentle and tease the plant out. There you go. And loads of worms, loads of everything just coming to life. Making a bit more of a mess than I thought I would, but here we go. Needs must. Into the new pot and some compost over the top. Yes, we're good to go for the season now. And the pot we had that aubergine on, that's a good sized pot, good, perfect for this chilli plant. So we're going to do a bit of plant juggling. All of this mulch and any sort of dead leaf matter from the chillies, this can go. And one of the things you'll notice with chillies is it always does this regardless of how deep you plant it. Just there you can see the roots of the chilli plant. So I want to try and bury this a bit deeper. So push that down into the new pot. Compost in around the side. Once that settles, we'll give it a little bit of mulch. But right now I'm not going to do anything to it. And the same with this other little chilli plant. Now with this one I haven't got much space to bury deeper because of how low that union is, where the branch union is. So I'm not going to worry about burying this one deeper. Even if I do get a little bit higher up, it's okay. But that's not my main goal. My main goal is just to get it some fresh compost. And this is, remember, this compost mix is not a massively nutritious compost mix. So I don't want it to put on loads and loads of fresh green growth, because when it's stressed in the conditions that it's in right now, what can happen is the aphids will just feast on all that fresh growth. It's nice and tender, nice and juicy, and the aphids will have a field day. So now it's time to give these plants a good watering in and get all that soil settled. And I'm going for loads of water for a couple of reasons. One, I'm in my house, so I've not got to worry about the plants sitting in cold, wet soil because it's warm in here. Okay, I just want it all to drain through, and I want the weight of the water to settle that soil. And give this pot a wash while I'm here as well. Don't worry about thinking that I'm drowning the plants. These plants will dry. With this one that had the really low union, my main aim where those branches meet is to make sure there's no soil in there that's going to cause it to rot. The water's already coming through and settling into this plate. I don't want it in there. That's coming out. And I'm going to just keep an eye on that, make sure all that water drains through and comes out. Whatever the soil holds, that's great, but whatever comes through, that's coming out. That mulch that I took off, that's going into the compost pile. The fungus that you saw on the plants, it's not going to harm the plants, it's not going to harm your soil, but it's just a little bit unsightly sometimes. And the kids start picking at it, so that's going into the compost pile. It can do its thing in there. But the reason that I do get rid of some of this leaf litter, or this what would be considered leaf litter from the surface now, is because that can have some of those aphids in there. They can go into the compost pile, they can get eaten by pests in there and predators in there. In a couple of days' time, once that water settles through, I'll mulch that with some rougher compost, because I don't like smooth compost to be at the surface. You can see it's already got some rough bits on there. I don't like really fine, smooth compost for when I'm potting up plants, because that can be hydrophobic and not allow water to penetrate. Probably about a month before the last frost, that's when I'm going to take this plant and put it into its final pot. What I'm going to notice over the next couple of weeks now is these plants really come to life and start putting on a little bit of growth, but it's not going to be excessive, and it's going to be at a level and a rate that I can manage. So the last thing for me to do is now get this place cleaned up before I get into too much trouble. So on that note, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. If you want to support our channel, why not become a patron? And I'm going to leave it there for this one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.